this on? Yes. Okay, sweet. Hey, you like the shirt, by the way? The GOAT. You know who he's owned by? Marvel. You know who Marvel's owned by? Disney. And I want to take a minute to talk about Disney. The people responsible for bringing us classics like The Lion King, Finding Nemo, or Toy Story, among countless other timeless children's classics. I mean, with their historic resume, they've still got to be thriving, right? Right? No, they're not. Since 2020, Disney has lost out on a significant amount of $2.16 billion thanks to 10 major box office flops. You might be asking yourself, man, with the capabilities of new filmmaking techniques, instead of recycling old classics and turning them into live-action remakes and throwing in lazy baseline representations of modern society and losing out on hundreds of millions of dollars as a result, why don't they just come up with a new original idea? I've got the answer. Money and nostalgia. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we thank the higher powers of the universe for independent filmmakers. Companies and groups without an overarching capitalistic agenda that take new ideas and bring them to life without crippling costs and a loss of creativity. Over the past decade or so, the film industry has undergone a sort of renovation. Hollywood is no longer the dream destination for filmmakers as people have fallen out of love with going to the movie theater. Many cities across the nation offer incentives and natural locations that are drastically more beneficial than Los Angeles, and the big companies in Hollywood are obviously running out of ideas. Many of the well-funded films that are coming out of Hollywood feel more like a cash grab instead of a passionate experience. And I want you to understand why artists like me are branching out to alternative cities like Atlanta or here in Cincinnati for better opportunities in the film industry. Really quick, I just came up with this great idea off the top of my head. If you and your friends need a drinking game, watch this video and take a sip every time I say the word Hollywood. Actually, don't. Forget I just said that. Now look, I've never been one to thoroughly enjoy a history lecture, but in order to understand Hollywood as the powerhouse it is known as today, we gotta go back to them roots. We're going all the way back to the early 1900s, before the Big Sign, the Walk of Fame, or countless studio sound stages. Hollywood was simply a small agricultural community established in 1887 by Harvey and Diada Wilcox, who subdivided approximately 160 acres of the Cahuenga Valley, located throughout the base of the Santa Monica Mountains. By the time the 20th century rolled around, Hollywood stayed quiet with a population of around 500 people, devoid of any giant cultural influence compared to the present day. With wealthy ranches filled with citrus groves, vineyards, and barley fields, the land of Hollywood was cherished for its agricultural potential, as it possessed a frost-free belt, where exotic crops like tomatoes, pineapples, and peppers could ripen. Around this time on the East Coast, filmmakers were floating up Schitt's Creek. And no, I'm not talking about the TV show. Weather on the East Coast is infamously unpredictable, with hot-as-shit summers, harsh cold winters, and plenty of rain and snow. These conditions made it quite difficult for outdoor filming, but that's only part of the reason filmmakers hated working in the East. Thomas Edison, one of the world's greatest inventors, was also largely recognized for his contributions to the development of early motion pictures, and in 1908 he founded the Motion Pictures Patent Company, the MPPC, also known as the Edison Trust. This corporation consisted of several major film companies, and Edison pursued his goal of controlling the U.S. film industry by licensing pooled patents throughout the trust members and restricting access to essential resources for production crews. This gave the MPPC power over every aspect of the industry, from equipment manufacturing to the distribution of films throughout the nation. Production companies also noted that Edison would threaten distributors with lawsuits and patent infringement if they did not exclusively use Edison machines in films. This tyrannical dynamic, among numerous other restrictions, is what defined the Edison Trust monopoly, which crippled the industry and stifled independent filmmakers, oppressed by the constant threat of legal action and unfair licensing. Filmmakers saw Hollywood as their holy grail, with land in the West being much cheaper than it is today. And I mean much cheaper. The aforementioned agricultural paradise also boasted diverse landscapes and a year-round sunny climate, perfect for outdoor shooting. These conditions also reduced the need for expensive sound stages and artificial lighting, resulting in dramatically lower costs for production. With mountains, plains, beaches, and deserts to play with, limitless possibilities were waiting for filmmakers in LA. With film production becoming stagnant after the development of the MPPC, production companies and independent entities soon realized that they could escape the clutches of Edison's patents thanks to the distance between Los Angeles and Edison's HQ in New Jersey. With production and distribution occurring on the other side of the country, along with the less favorable courts in California, it became extremely difficult for the MPPC to enforce their power. Thus, the filmmaking migration to the West began, and the MPPC was eventually shut down in 1915 after a federal court case ruled that the organization's activity was far beyond what was necessary to protect the use of patents or the monopoly which went with them, and therefore an illegal restraint of trade under the Sherman Antitrust Act. Woo! Let's go. Anyways, in 1910, Thomas Ince, wow, another Thomas, founded the Inceville Studio, becoming one of the very first motion picture studios in Hollywood. Not far behind was the establishment of Universal Pictures and Paramount Pictures in 1912, along with the Fox Film Corporation in 1915, all studios who remain powerhouses within the global film industry today. It's not until the 1920s that these cornerstone studios truly settle in, marking the beginning of Hollywood's golden age, complemented by rapid growth and the development of studio systems, consisting of major film companies like Warner Bros., RKO Pictures, or MGM obtaining agency and overseeing the distribution and exhibition of their films instead of one organization controlling everything like the MPPC previously. 1923 officially ushered in the glitz and glamour of the Magical Valley by installing the iconic Hollywood sign upon the southern side of Mount Lee. Wait, Hollywood Land? What the hell is that? Turns out the sign was used as a $21,000 billboard, originally built and bought by Los Angeles Times publisher Harry Chandler to promote his real estate development of the same name. It wasn't until 1949 when his agency went under, which resulted in the city removing the land section of the sign and solidifying the rest of it as a landmark in pop culture and American history. Another milestone belongs to Warner Bros.' release of The Jazz Singer in 1927, which revolutionized the industry as the film featured synchronized sound, paving the way for the sound era and solidifying Hollywood as the global epicenter for filmmaking. This was also the industry's goodbye to silent films, with talkies becoming the new sensation. Pretty corny if you ask me. The 1930s and 40s brought us classic cinema character actors such as Katharine Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe, Clark Gable, Humphrey Bogart. All of these Hollywood stars became international icons as American-made films spread throughout the world. People recognized Hollywood's expanded economic strength, which attracted many workers, technicians, and creatives from other countries. Hollywood was also integral in instilling patriotism and hope into Americans during World War II, acting as an outlet for American propaganda, with celebrities participating in recruitment drives and war bond campaigns, and the release of wartime classics like Casablanca, Sergeant York, or The Great Dictator. On the tail end of the 40s, Hollywood faced significant challenges due to the results of the United States versus Paramount Pictures case in 1948. The Supreme Court deemed that Paramount Pictures, along with several other major film studios, were violating antitrust laws by owning and controlling movie theaters, profit-sharing and pooling agreements, and also monopolizing the markets. The U.S.'s decision led to the Paramount Decrees, a set of mandates that demanded the major film studios to sell off their theaters, end the vertical integration of film production and exhibition, and stop practices like block booking and unreasonable clearances. Are you sensing a pattern with these major studios? Nevertheless, this case brought the end of the studio system and dismantled the monopolistic grip over film distribution in the US. At the same time, television started appearing as an essential centerpiece in American homes, which drew audiences away from the movie theater, forcing Hollywood to re-strategize and adapt. After some time of development, the new Hollywood movement shined in the 1960s and 70s, exposing producers to household names like Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, or George Lucas. These visionary legends in the industry absolutely rejected the conventional strategies of studio filmmaking and instead emphasized countercultural or controversial themes, innovative storytelling techniques, and overall artistic expression. The later side of the 70s brought us Taxi Driver, The Godfather, Star Wars, Jaws. I could go on and on about classics from these few directors alone, but a slew of groundmaking material was shaping Hollywood to be a reliable destination for pumping out timeless Hollywood classics, effectively bouncing back from the effects of destroying the studio system. As time progressed, so did the evolution of technology, and it didn't shy away from the film industry as production studios became acclimated with digital cinematography, editing, and projection, the use of the Dolby Stereo for film screenings, and a more refined process for crafting computer-generated imagery, or CGI. These innovations bring us into the blockbuster era. Oh, how I miss you, my sweet. The late 20th century was characterized by heavily large budgets and loads of special effects that extended its reach to mass audiences. E.T. the Extraterrestrial or Titanic are perfect examples, films that shook the world and became the highest grossing movies to ever be made, in their times of course. Movies coming out of Hollywood became global phenomena, and it did not take media conglomerates long to capitalize on the effects. The 90s saw Viacom, Time Warner, and our good friend Disney acquiring the biggest studios in the industry in order to build multimedia empires. Hollywood went from an agricultural goldmine full of rich people to a worldwide hub of creativity and entertainment. Also full of rich people. The city marched proudly into the 21st century as it had become the dreamland of filmmaking. American-made films dominated the international markets and set trends in production and storytelling techniques. Early models of social media became a new platform for companies to promote their projects. The industry reached an all-time economic high, grossing billions upon billions of dollars in box office earnings and exports. Hollywood was going to go strong for years, even decades to come. And then COVID hit. COVID-19 came during my junior year of high school, and I vividly remember being in forensics class with my best friend Mac, secretly listening to the new release of Lil Uzi Vert's Eternal Atake, when it was announced to us that schools all across Kentucky would be closed during the next 2 weeks. Boy, we had no idea how bad it would get. COVID dug its claws into my hometown of Louisville much faster than everyone expected, which was a testament to its volatile nature. The two hypotheses around the origin of COVID-19 say that the virus came from the exposure to an infected animal or a potential laboratory leak. No matter the source, this one misstep shook the entire world in late 2019, sending us into a frenzy as we stocked up on unholy amounts of toilet paper, bought lab-grade face masks, and prepared for the apocalypse. While we developed a vaccine and adapted to this new threat, the film industry and especially movie theaters are still really suffering from the effects of this worldwide pandemic. When the virus eventually reached the US, film production and distribution methods faced unprecedented challenges as the government quickly implemented lockdowns and social distancing mandates. Cinemas were among the first public establishments to shut their doors, which resulted in a dramatic decline in box office revenue. For example, between March 13th and 15th of 2020, box office receipts in North America plummeted down to their lowest levels since 1998. China, the origin of the virus, had also closed down all their theaters during the Lunar New Year, a peak movie-going period, and reported losses of billions of dollars. As the death toll rose, the longer the theaters stayed closed, which forced studios to delay major, expensive releases or turn to alternative distribution strategies. Anticipated blockbuster releases like No Time to Die or Marvel's Black Widow, among many other big films, faced multiple postponements, while others opted in for a digital release for the premiere. This phenomenon created a sort of inverse trickle-down effect, as these long closures also hurt businesses reliant on theatrical releases, such as marketing firms, merchandise vendors, and other local economies surrounding movie theaters. The iPad kids and the couch potatoes thrived during this time as big film companies looked towards the mirage of third-party streaming services. I remember catching COVID just a couple days before my 18th birthday and eventually spreading it to my parents, which gave us plenty of time to be close to each other, even if we could barely move or smell or taste. Every day, we'd slug over to the living room couch and fall into a new movie or series to binge. The television became the centerpiece of the American home a long time ago, but it became especially important during lockdown, and we could no longer rely on movie theaters for entertainment. The pandemic was really the catalyst event for the success of the streaming industry, even though it was already a silent killer of the cinema before the emergence of COVID. Platforms like Netflix, Prime Video, and Disney Plus only required a few minutes of registering an account and a monthly subscription price that was cheaper than one movie ticket. Okay, not anymore. And gave consumers countless options for entertainment, all within the palm of their hand. Subscriber growth skyrocketed during the lockdown, and within the UK alone, 12 million people subscribed to a new service that they hadn't used before. Globally, streaming services surpassed 1 billion subscriptions during this period of lockdown. Netflix added nearly 15.7 million subscribers in the first quarter of 2020, doubling its projected growth. Disney Plus, which launched in November 2019, reached over 50 million subscribers by April 2020, fortified by its vast library and the release of titles like Hamilton. This surge of user activity represented a significant shift in worldwide consumer behavior as audiences started to recognize the convenience and safety of in-home entertainment compared to the traditional theater experience. What the pandemic also did was accelerate company trends of shortening theatrical release windows, the period of time where a film is exclusively shown in movie theaters before it is authorized for digital distribution. For decades, this period averaged around 90 days, but studios had to start changing the formula as they still faced movie theater closures. They started experimenting with both simultaneous or expedited digital releases in order to reach those who were locked into their homes. Universal, for instance, bypassed theaters entirely during their release of Trolls World Tour as they premiered the film directly onto on-demand platforms in April 2020. This move by Universal sparked lots of controversy and even led to AMC Theaters announcing that it would no longer screen Universal-made movies. This stance perfectly encapsulates the growing tensions between studios and exhibitors during this time. Warner Bros. Took an even more radical approach by releasing their entire 2021 film slate simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max. The corporation wanted to accommodate varying consumer preferences during the lockdown, but this hybrid model also fostered plenty of criticism from filmmakers and theater chains alike. By March 2021, the company announced its plan to discontinue same-day releases in the coming year of 2022, instead opting for a 45-day exclusive theatrical window. Many different conflicts between studios and exhibitor chains erupted as the world was trying to figure out a solution to COVID-19. But we slowly paved our way forward. Vaccines were being developed, small businesses adapted to new models of consumerism, and everyone contributed their best efforts to stop the spread of the virus. Though, once we started to bounce back, we could also see the severe financial ramifications for the film industry. In 2024, US and Canadian box office receipts totaled $8.6 billion for the year, a significant decrease from the $11.4 billion back in 2019. This drop-off over the years was attributed not only to worldwide theater closures, but also the evolving landscape of consumers favoring streaming platforms, as well as a reduced number of total releases. Once federal mandates started to lift, theaters worked hard to bring the audience back into their arms, implementing various amenities such as luxury seating or expanded food and drink options. Many would also host live events or offer private theater rentals for giant parties, but despite these efforts, the industry would continue to face challenges in reaching pre-pandemic sales and attendance. Cinema as we know it also contracted the COVID-19 disease, and it just can't seem to find a vaccine. Well, it's a new day, so a new shirt. Shout out Robert Eggers. One of the biggest factors in the evolution of modern filmmaking is the migration of filmmakers and production companies away from Hollywood. Driven by labor disputes, economic incentives offered in other regions, and the quest for greater autonomy, leaders are flocking away from Hollywood and into alternative cities to flesh out their dreams. In 2023, the Writers Guild of America initiated an organization-wide strike that lasted 148 days, solidifying the event as one of Hollywood's longest work stoppages in history, on top of the delays already caused by the worldwide pandemic. Writers desired better compensation, more protections against the use of AI in screenwriting, and better residual payments in the emergence of the streaming era. This strike almost brought all of film and TV production in the US to a halt, which underscores the industry's vulnerabilities and downfalls. At the same time, the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, better known as SAG-AFTRA, had also initiated a strike addressing problems such as image rights to combat AI, the impact of new technology on performers' livelihoods, along with fair compensation through streaming residuals similar to the Writers Guild goals. Both organizations recognized that their profits through streaming platforms were lower or calculated differently compared to traditional deals, prompting them to push for better pay. These concurrent strikes not only disrupted the production schedules that were already way far behind schedule, but also pressured industry leaders and professionals to reevaluate their dependence on the old Hollywood system. Several states in the US saw these labor disputes as opportunities to capitalize, with the fragility of Hollywood's dominance being revealed to the world. Out of nowhere, lucrative tax incentives were being presented in order to attract production, which had been integral in reshaping the geographic distribution of the industry. For instance, Georgia, dubbed the Hollywood of the South, offers a 20% transferable tax credit on productions that spend $500,000 or more, with an additional 10% tax credit available if the project uses a promotional state logo. You can find this mark in some Marvel films, along with the hit series Stranger Things. New Mexico presents a base tax credit of 25% on qualified expenditures and has become a favored destination for filmmakers over the years. Breaking Bad is a perfect example. The state's diverse landscapes and commitment to providing support for filmmaking have only deepened the appeal. Louisiana also provides a 25% base tax credit but on in-state spending, attracting numerous productions and boosting the state economy. Netflix's Hitman was noted to relocate from Houston to New Orleans in order to capitalize on these hard-to-miss financial benefits. With all these different numbers and perks lying in front of prospective filmmakers, it's hard to see California as the number one pick. The state caps the film and TV tax credit program at $330 million annually, which sounds like a hell of a lot, though it's known to be competitive as not every production that applies gets a slice of the pie. The California Film Commission goes through a lottery-style process in order to divvy out credits to various film companies, and that uncertainty can scare off studios that want guarantees, not chances. Compare that to Georgia, which offers uncapped credits as long as the project qualifies, or Louisiana, which has a $150 million cap, but is more generous in its per-production structure and also allows credits to be sold or transferred, providing much more flexibility. California also lacks any transferability or sellability in tax credit, which is a big deal for studios that can sell credits to local businesses or brokers in other states, representing instant cash value. California's application process for tax credits is also infamously slow. The system includes strict regulations and longer review times, and it can also prioritize projects that are relocating to California or provide the most local jobs, presenting a biased business environment where indie films or non-union projects have a higher chance of being disregarded in the application process. Other states provide a faster, more streamlined protocol with less red tape and more predictable approval. This goes without saying, but California is expensive in all sectors. Their labor unions are stronger, and wages and costs of living in LA are higher across the board. With states like Oklahoma or New Mexico that provide lower labor costs along with extra bonuses for hiring local crews or utilizing rural locations, studios will have a much easier time budgeting their projects in locations other than California. In response to these new, more attractive offers, California Governor Gavin Newsom has proposed raising the state's TV and film tax credit to $750 million annually, looking to make their market more competitive. Advocates have also launched campaigns urging lawmakers to streamline permitting processes and enhance incentives to revitalize local production. But as far as my research goes, these new bills by the governor have not been passed yet. Beyond the economic factors, filmmakers are drawn to locations with rich, vast landscapes, along with greater creative freedom. Cities like Asheville, North Carolina, or Austin, Texas, boast vibrant art scenes that provide an authentic backdrop and a supportive community for storytelling. Decentralizing Hollywood allows filmmakers to create fresh perspectives for their audiences. Working in an alternative state creates distance from the traditional studio system, which is concentrated within the conglomerate of major corporations in California. This provides extra opportunities for experimentation with fewer executive notes and corporate brand concerns. Independent productions in these other states are often backed by smaller studios or private investors that prioritize authenticity over box office numbers. There's also less pressure to cast A-list talent, which means more money, or meet diversity quotas that feel tokenized or market-driven. You might also notice that blockbuster movies have become increasingly stale over the years. As previously mentioned, most major studios are really subsidiaries of even larger corporations. Disney owns Marvel, Pixar, and Lucasfilm. Warner Bros. Discovery owns DC and HBO. Comcast owns all of Universal. The list goes on, and these distinctive empires based in Hollywood present an issue of hierarchical decision-making and control, leaving filmmakers to utilize what is only greenlit by their respective corporate powers. With so much money to lose, these corporations prioritize low-risk, high-return franchises, which means that sequels, remakes, and reboots absolutely dominate authorization meetings instead of fresh ideas. Merchandising potential, shared universes, and theme park tie-ins also have a large influence in these decisions, which pushes us far away from originality. Studios also now rely on streaming data, social media trends, and algorithmic predictions instead of straight-up box office appeal, following along with the power of digitality. This often leads to safe bets with broad appeal and minimal controversy, and ideas that might be seen as weird or personal are considered niche, which closes the door for funding in fear of less financial return. If you loosely follow along with production news, you will see that Hollywood blockbusters go through dozens of rewrites, multiple test screenings, and studio-imposed reshoots based on executive feedback, which is a perfect recipe for an uninspired movie. These big films lack a strong voice with emotional specificity, and when it tries to please everyone, it ends up saying nothing at all. Just scroll through Disney Plus in order to witness franchise fatigue with the endless interconnected Marvel spin-offs or recycled Star Wars stories. As a superhero geek, you don't want to get me started. The exodus of filmmakers from Hollywood is a multifaceted phenomenon influenced by key factors of economic opportunities and creative control. And while Hollywood's legacy as the heart of filmmaking remains, these shifts signal an evolving landscape where multiple regions have a part to play in American cinema. The bottom line is that Hollywood offers studios money, outreach, and fame, but usually at the cost of creative control. It's like making a deal with the devil. Working outside of that system in another state means fewer gatekeepers, more narrative experimentation, and authenticity over marketability. While filmmaking is a business, at its core, it is an art form, which is why we look towards the horizons of independent studios and other cities across the nation for genuinely rich stories, not rich people. Hold on. Okay, before we get to chapter 4, I'm not gonna lie, my stomach is grumbling like crazy. I'm craving some McDonald's fries. I'm gonna go grab my snacks if you wanna go get some too. I am not sponsored by McDonald's. I am not affiliated with McDonald's. I just really wanted some fries.
I'll just do the large fry and then one of the medium iced coffees for me. What you got? You got caramel?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll do caramel.
Along with the fries, I got a caramel iced coffee as well because on the day of filming this segment, I was locked into my room for the whole morning and afternoon to edit this very video and needed a little boost. Anyway, on to chapter 4. Now, we're not here to talk about the Reds or Rheingeist or Skyline Chili. We're here to talk about Cincinnati filmmaking. As the gravitational pull of Hollywood weakens, cities like Cincinnati, Ohio have emerged as vibrant centers for production. With generous tax incentives, a unique and diverse architectural landscape, and supportive local infrastructure, Cincy has become an increasingly attractive destination for filmmakers that seek both economic efficiency and creative flexibility. Established in 2009, the Ohio Motion Picture Tax Credit, or the OMPTC, has become integral to Cincinnati's image as a filmmaking hub. The program offers a 30% refundable tax credit on in-state expenditures, which encompasses both above-the-line costs consisting of actors and directors, or below-the-line costs such as crew or equipment. The credit also applies to both resident and non-resident labor, which provides a significant financial benefit for production crews of all sizes. Recently, Ohio has demonstrated a commitment to the film industry by allocating remarkable amounts of money through the OMPTC. For example, in 2024, the state was able to award over $36 million in tax credits to 17 different film, TV, and theatrical projects, underscoring its dedication to nurturing both local and incoming companies. Cincinnati is a city that offers diverse options of architecture and aesthetic, making it a perfect candidate to double for various locales, from 1950s New York to contemporary Midwestern towns. This versatility has welcomed many productions, such as Carol in 2015, a critically acclaimed romantic indie that utilizes Cincy's vintage storefronts and period architecture to recreate 1950s Manhattan. The Killing of a Sacred Deer in 2017, capitalizing on the city's suburban landscape to craft its unsettling narrative. Or The Bike Riders, recently released in 2023, which transformed various parts of the city in order to recreate 1960s Midwestern America. These productions didn't need to build giant sound stages or use excessive green screens and CGI. They simply used what the city of Cincinnati had to offer and altered different characteristics of the environment in order to bring their vision into reality. This is the essence of authenticity. Audiences also look forward to upcoming releases that utilize Cincinnati for storytelling, such as The Mastermind, starring Josh O'Connor, following an art heist that occurs amidst the backdrop of the Vietnam War. Or The Epiphany, starring Sylvester Stallone, about a detective in Philadelphia investigating a serial killer. These two high-profile films have been granted multi-million-dollar tax credits thanks to Ohio's generous program, and filmmakers continue to reinforce Cincinnati's reputation as a burgeoning hub for production. Filmmakers can also discover a strong foundation and infrastructure when filming directly in the city. Film Cincinnati, a nonprofit organization, plays a pivotal role in attracting and facilitating film productions, providing resources, funding, and guidance in order to ensure smooth operations. This city also presents an ever-growing pool of skilled professionals, from set designers to camera operators, reducing the need to spend money and import talent from other regions. The city's proximity to the University of Cincinnati is also a plus for filmmakers. The university's Conservatory of Music is packed full of passionate talent developing their skills in theatrical performance, along with their digital media collaborative students that are provided with a hands-on experience with filmmaking equipment, honing in their technical and professional skills. UC is full of prospects for major film companies to utilize. And while Cincinnati doesn't have its own giant sign or golden walk of fame, the city is making a name for itself in show business, and I do believe that it can become a force to be reckoned with in the coming years. Alright, well, we've reached the end, but I've got some more peak entertainment here on my shirt. We're just gonna have to do it like this. With another goat, Aaron Yeager, baby. Yeah. Anyways, back on track. One beautiful thing about life is that we don't know what the future holds. Society and the way we interact with each other has drastically changed for my generation alone, thanks to the advancement of the digital era and more innovative technologies that continue evolving. While certain things become obsolete or dated over time, I think films are timeless. They are bodies of work that stem from a single idea brought to fruition by groups of human beings, whether they be big or small. Films are stories that we want to tell so bad that the world will possibly spend hundreds of millions of dollars in order for it to be made. I see movies as windows, giving us glimpses into times that have passed, people that have aged, lessons that have been taught. When a film is made and distributed, it belongs to the world as something that anyone can enjoy. Movies take you as you are, inviting you to make meaning of what it has to offer. They can make you feel inspired, or disgusted, or scared, or excited, and that is exactly why I want to be involved in the industry until I die. We reach into ourselves in order to connect with what we see on screen. And with so many platforms of social media being at our disposal, clouding our self-worth, I feel that we as people have lost touch with ourselves and how we perceive others. And look, you may be wondering, who the hell is this guy? Why is this 22-year-old trying to tell me how I should feel or think about movies? What does he know? Well, frankly, not too much. I'm no bona fide film connoisseur, and I sure as hell don't have a master's in film studies. I mean, at least yet. I'm about to get my bachelor's. As a kid, I wasn't one to join the school football team or commit myself religiously to any specific extracurriculars. I was involved in choir, band, gaming, farm work with my dad, many different random things. But what I was missing as a young kid was an avenue of expression, which I discovered in theater. While I would have trouble accepting myself in the classroom or in the mirror, the stage of an auditorium felt like a place where I could embrace any and everything, no matter how many people were watching. I empathize with characters on screen. I feel the strange, unspoken connections that I build with co-actors and crews. I feel most alive when I'm totally not myself, and that's a really hard thing to conceptualize. This passion as a kid flourished into a love for on-camera acting, and I've been lucky to have a robust support system through my mom and dad. Ever since joining a talent agency in the 5th grade, I've slowly built an amateur resume consisting of roles in short films, still photography, along with promotions and local commercials throughout the Bluegrass region. But it is a forever dream of mine to be involved in film, no matter if it's in front of the camera or behind it. What matters most is having a place in a project, where I can contribute all of my passion in order to carry a film to greater heights. I share all of this information with you because things have changed a lot, not only for the film industry, but for the world in general. We are much more prone to shutting our doors, turning on our TVs, and drowning out everything around us, forgetting that there's an entire planet outside full of possibilities. I don't think the word possibility really exists in modern filmmaking, and that's why I hold it so dear to me. Anyways, I encourage you to think about your favorite films. Why do they mean so much to you? Why was this made in the first place? How does this affect my life? The landscape of Hollywood and the film industry as a whole is far different than how it was just 10 years ago. While things look a bit bleak for the big studios, it's important to remember that change is essential for progress. It is up to the brave and the bold to continue crafting stories that will challenge us viewers to reach inside of ourselves and truly connect with the worlds they've built. Thank you for your time.